Welcome back to another edition of the Penn State 365 podcast. I'm your host, Richie O'Leary, and joined as always talking Penn State football recruiting, my co-host, HappyValleyInsider.com's very own Dylan Callahan Crawley. Dylan, the portal just opened this week, and it's already ramping up and getting pretty exciting. Things are kind of going crazy already. Offers being sent left and right, new college coaches. Bill Belichick's in college now, so if you told me that a year ago, I'd probably call you crazy, let alone this week. But Penn State's sent out a couple different offers so far, and they're also starting to going to start hosting guys as soon as this weekend. So let's kind of break down some of these guys that they're hosting. I guess let's start with FIU wide receiver transfer, Eric Rivers. Eric Rivers, redshirt junior, will be a redshirt senior, 1 year, I believe 1 year left. Grades out as one of the best receivers in college football, ranks 34th out of 1,019 eligible receivers with an 82.7 grade. Put up some really good numbers, 1,100 yards, 12 touchdowns, 62 receptions. He had a game where he put up nearly 300 yards on New Mexico State this year. This is an incredible one if they can pull this off, and he's a Chattanooga native, by the way.
Yeah. Eric Rivers is definitely one of those names that really stands out in the transport right now, wide receiver. Probably gone a little bit under the radar just because of some of the bigger names that have entered that were bigger prospects coming out of high school. But if you look at the offer sheet that Rivers has reportedly, or the interest sheet, if you want to call it, that Rivers has amassed since entering the portal, I think it says a lot about what teams think he can be. And yeah, Penn State needs a game changer at that wide receiver position. Maybe a game changer isn't the right word, but they need a guy who can come in and make a difference in that room right away. They cannot enter next season with this same wide receiver room. They need somebody who can make a difference, even if it's a Mitchell Tinsley level difference, which maybe Eric Rivers, that's the type of impact you can expect from going from Group of Five to Power Five, because there's a high, step up in play there. What FIU is in the Conference USA?
Yes, I believe so. Everyone changes every year down in G5,
Yeah,
so
so go from Conference USA to the Big Ten would be quite the jump. So I wouldn't, lower expectations a little bit. But yeah, Eric Rivers would be a pretty phenomenal pickup, I think, if Penn State would be able to, land a player of his caliber. The stats speak for themselves, in my opinion. And yeah, just a really good player who, even though he didn't have a major year in 2023, still had quality production, 32, 370, and 2 touchdowns before having a breakout season this year. Again, not going to hit those numbers, but again, for Penn State, probably, if he would come here. But I think he'd definitely add a playmaker to the room that they desperately need.
yeah, good speed, good playmaker, deep ball threat on the outside. Could play the slot even at 5'11", 170-ish. My only concern is he's only faced one Power 5 program, Power 4 program, whatever you want to call it now. And that was Indiana this year, and they locked him down to 2 receptions for 18 yards. Now, he also put up 300 yards on a New Mexico State team. It was decent. They put up 100-plus yards on Kennesaw, Middle Tennessee, Monmouth, FAU. Like, the list isn't great that he played against competition-wise, but it's still 1,100 yards. So, for example, what I like to do with kids like this from this level of college football is say, hey, if he goes up a level to the Power 5, maybe 40%, 50% of what he did there, and that's a pretty good year. You're on mute still. There you go.
I think very similarly, like I said, Mitchell Tinsley is kind of the comp here. I mean, if you go look at Mitchell Tinsley's numbers in college, I think for Western Kentucky, he had an 1,400 yard season in 2021, 14 touchdowns. Comes to Penn State, has a really good season, not as big of a season, but a really good season of 51, 577, 5. I think that should be kind of the benchmark here for a guy like Eric Rivers. And that's not even to mention that he could potentially be having the best quarterback in the country next year thrown to him.
Now, he's visiting on the 19th, 20th? I forget what day.
Next week.
Next week.
Next week. Yeah.
Now, another name that is going to be visiting soon is Reggie Virgil from Miami, Ohio. Reggie Virgil is a little bit of an interesting one. He's reported a ton of different offers: Oklahoma, Texas Tech, Pittsburgh, Florida State, Illinois. I'm looking at the list right now. Arkansas, Michigan, West Virginia, blah 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 blah. The list goes on and on. Very highly ranked kid. Where are his exact numbers from this year? Can't find them for some reason. But ranked 330th among wide receivers per PFF.
I found them.
Right,
he's in College Football Reference as Reggie Virgil.
That's why I couldn't find it. Okay.
41 for 816, 9 touchdowns, 19.9 yards per carry. Notably, before this season, he had in 23 games 2 receptions for like 66 yards. 56 yards. So, I mean, he had no production the first 2 years on campus, and then exploded this year with Miami of Ohio, with Brett Gabbert there at quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, that would obviously help a little bit. But, yeah, we know Florida's interested. Michigan State, I believe he's visited. Yep. And then he's also expected to be at Oklahoma one of these days. I forget which days exactly. They all kind of just blend together at this point. Here, actually, just popped it up on my phone. He was at Michigan State yesterday. He'll be at Oklahoma on Friday and Penn State this upcoming weekend, I believe. So, or next week. I forget. These visits all blend together, like I said. Florida's also involved, so watch out for that. We'll see how much NIL plays a factor with that one. I have a little bit more confidence in Eric Rivers than I do in Reggie Virgil's.
Yeah, I too have a little bit more. I would have more confidence in Rivers than Virgil, but I think Virgil would be a good pickup. But I think the floor is probably a bit lower than an Eric Rivers based off what we've seen production wise. Now, one could argue that maybe MAC talent over the last few years has become better than Conference USA talent. The MAC, kind of used to be not a doormat conference, but it wasn't the highest level of play. But I think the MAC over the last few years has really stepped up its level of competition across the board, and we saw that with Bowling Green this year.
Yeah.
So I think Virgil could still have quality success if he would transfer to a place like Penn State or any of the Power 5 places he's garnering interest from. But I think Rivers probably has a little bit of a higher ceiling.
I mean, speaking of Bowling Green, real quick, their running back, Terrion Stewart, who I kind of raved about in our game preview, he's visiting USC this week. So Harold Fannon's probably tight end 2 in this draft behind Tyler Warren. So, I mean, they definitely produce some talent. They have some talented kids at the MAC. But next up on the list, Teague Anderson, offensive tackle from Utah State. Teague Anderson has started every game this season at right tackle for Utah State. It's really hard to grade offensive linemen, especially when there's no film out there. Yeah. But he has a very high-ranked passing grade. He's ranked 62nd out of out of 604 tackles in college football this year, with a pass block grade. And his run block grade's a little bit iffy, but I mean, if you can get some pass blocking, I kind of trust actually Troutline with just about anyone to develop them. So this would be an interesting one.
Yeah, no. Penn State wants to add to their offensive tackle room, and then in the upcoming in this portal cycle, offensive line in general. It seems it wasn't a position coming into the portal season that we necessarily pinpointed as a necessity, but we did mention that the offensive line is a position in which you're always looking for potential depth additions, and Anderson makes sense. Really. Quality blocker at Utah State. Obviously not facing elite competition at Utah State, but facing quality competition. Has only allowed 5 sacks over the last 2 seasons, 24 total pressures, I think, over the last 2 seasons. About 1,300 total pass pressure or pass blocking snaps. So, I mean, really good efficiency as a pass blocker there for Utah State. Has a prototypical offensive tackle size. It's, I think, 6'5", 305-ish. So definitely something to watch here. We'll see if how things progress with a visit this weekend. And if Penn State can add another tackle to their room, that would I think be a worthwhile addition for them heading into next season. Because you don't know. We don't know the exacts on Anthony Dunca's injury right now. and where he will be coming into next season. You obviously have Nolan Rucci there, and you have Drew Shelton, but you can always add more depth to that position.
Yeah, no, for sure.
He
Now,
also, I think, he also played center for one game for Utah State, so he does have some
okay.
position versatility that could allow him to move inside as well. So perhaps that's a thinking there too, because if you look at Penn State's offensive line room, there's a lot of tackles, not a whole ton of interior offensive linemen right now. So perhaps he could offer some position versatility for Penn State if he would come to Happy Valley.
Yeah, I was kind of intrigued to see about that one because, like you said, they are losing Wormley. They're losing Dawkins. Vega's still there. So there is an opening at center. There's an opening at right guard. The tackles will be back, but like you said, Anthony Donko, we don't really know what his injury status is at this point.
Dawkins does have a year of eligibility,
Does
actually.
he? Okay,
Yeah.
I misread that then.
No, you're good. I thought the same thing earlier this week, but did some digging. And he does have some. He does have a year of availability, I believe.
Gotcha.
I could be wrong, but I believe.
I'll have to double check on that. Last but not least of the oh no, I'm sorry, there's two more. David Blay, let's start with him. Louisiana Tech, former Westchester University guy, went to Louisiana Tech.
Levittown native.
Yep, Levittown native, like you said. Produced pretty high rate this year. 10.5 tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks, a couple QB hurries, 46 tackles. Like pretty good year at Louisiana Tech.
Yeah.
And one of the better defensive tackles in the portal. He'll be on campus Saturday.
Yeah, this is one that you kind of expect to go Penn State's way, just kind of based off, Pennsylvania kid. Penn State has a need at defensive tackle heading next season. A lot of this makes sense. He has production at Louisiana Tech. So we'll see how the visit goes, but definitely one that stands out coming into this weekend. A guy that once he entered the portal, I think a lot of people around the program who follow the program closely, especially recruiting-wise, pinpointed as somebody to monitor. And, a couple days later, he gets the visit scheduled, also visit Illinois, and we confirmed he's visiting USC next Monday. So we'll see how that USC visit goes, but definitely think this is one that Penn State has a quality chance of winning because of those Pennsylvania ties.
Now, do you feel confident that Penn State could win this before he even gets to USC?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't know if he has an agent.
They all do at this point.
Most of them do at this point. So perhaps his agent won't let him get to.
That's fair.
Perhaps his agent won't let him commit to Penn State before visiting USC. But sure, I think there's always a chance.
Last but not least, a former 5-star, another defensive tackle, Bear Alexander. He's been to 4 different high schools during his high school career.
Yeah.
Now he's approaching 3 different colleges. He'll be at Penn State this weekend. We know Texas, SMU, a bunch of things are going on.
We all have both of us have some noise going on here today.
Christmas tree's just falling apart, man.
It's better than the earthquake.
That's fair. Well, I got drones to worry about over here. So.
You do.
Anyway, Oregon's involved, Texas is involved, SMU's involved. Who else? I'm missing someone else. But it sounds like Bear Alexander's basically just waiting for a payday again, if I had to guess. Does Penn State have the money towards a payday? And would they be open to it, considering he's a guy that's basically, I don't want to say flaked on every single program he's been at, but 4 years in high school, 2 colleges, 2 years.
Yeah, let's be honest. This is not a recruitment that I think we expected Penn State to really be in because it just traditionally doesn't fit the Penn State mold of what they tend to chase after. And, they also just saw a very similar story in T.A. Cunningham out of the transfer portal.
True.
But yet here, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but yet here we are. Penn State is in the recruitment for Bear Alexander. They recruited him out of high school. Things didn't work out then. I think we all agree that he still has unlimited potential and has a chance to be really damn good, but that potential hasn't been seen on the field yet. And let's be honest, this is a kid who quit on his team because he wasn't getting the playing time he wanted.
True.
I have questions about him and his willingness to be great per se, but if Penn State, but this is above my pay grade. If Penn State thinks that what they can provide from a not a foundational standpoint, but a
Culture standpoint, maybe.
culture standpoint,
Yeah.
a stability standpoint, can help.
Mindset, even like.
Yeah, exactly. Can get things on the right track for him, then so be it. But I definitely have some questions about how this one works out. And now him visiting doesn't mean they're going to take him. But it definitely is something that to it's worth mentioning that he's visiting.
Yeah.
But I'm interested to see how it develops from here.
Yeah, I feel like he reminds me of, and you might remember the name, Antonio Alfano. He was like
Yeah.
one of the top ranked prospects, former 5-star, bounced around from Alabama to Colorado to some lower G5 school. I think he actually got a shot at the league recently. I don't even know what he's up to, but he had all the talent in the world. It's just sometimes it just doesn't work out. And
He's Edmonton Elk.
okay, never mind. He's in the CFL, but I mean, he's making money playing football at the end of the day. He had all the talent in the world, and he just couldn't put it together in terms of actually going to class and stuff like that too. So I feel like Penn State's a good spot for that, but it's also they shied away from kids like this in the past, like you mentioned. So I'm a little shocked that he's visiting, but I think if you want defensive tackle help, you got to be open to stuff like this.
Yeah, no, and I, I let me say this. If they take him, there's nothing wrong with taking Bear Alexander.
Mm-hmm.
The unlimited raw potential is there, but I just have concern for the same concerns with Teague on him. Why are you transferring this much?
Mm-hmm.
And again, he left USC in the middle of the season because he wasn't getting the playing time he wanted.
Yeah,
Maybe there's more to that story, but that
could be.
that stands out. That stands out to me. It just does.
So real quick speed round. What was it? Eric Rivers. Chances he commits this weekend or next weekend when he visits. I know he's got another visit after Penn State too. I think he's got 4 in total: Miami, Nebraska, Penn State, and someone else. I forget.
Colorado, maybe.
Colorado. That's what it was. You're right. A lot of money there being involved with those 3 schools.
So you want me to
Oh
say
yeah,
where they go?
just give me a chance of him ending up at Penn State real quick. You don't have to put a number on it if you want. You can if you want. Up to you, really.
Going from low, medium, high, very high. I'll say medium.
Okay. Reggie Virgil, we know I just mentioned Michigan State recently, Florida, Oklahoma, and
I'll say medium again. I don't know if they. I think they have a really good chance of landing one of the two, but I don't know if they land
both
necessarily.
Okay.
And I'm not sure which one they necessarily land.
Gotcha.
They're ready to, we've been told, be competitive in the wide receiver market. So I think NIL wise, Rivers would be the higher NIL guy at this point.
Of course.
Maybe lean towards making a splash with Rivers right now, but it's on. I would still put right now both of them below 50%, but that's just because I don't know if anybody necessarily has a super high chance right now of landing any of these guys. I think it's kind of a pretty even playing field.
That's pretty fair. Teague Anderson. I feel like I'm a little confident in that one.
I'm confident that one can get wrapped up pretty quickly. So I will be willing to say high on that one.
Okay. David Blay. I don't know how to pronounce it.
I'm going to continue to, pound the table on the Pennsylvania ties there. I think he's staying home.
This is aggressive.
I think he's going to come home to Pennsylvania and maybe a Nittany Lion.
That's an aggressive knock. I feel like you're super confident in that one. There you go.
Super confident.
Bear Alexander, I think we kind of just hit on that one already, but I feel like you can't go any lower than him out of the 4, 5.
No, it's weird because where's he? He visited SMU, Penn State, and where's the other visit?
Texas. I mean, I feel like you're just aiming at Texas at this point, whether you're going to SMU and Texas, like 2 playoff teams, 3 playoff teams actually. He's just trying to get some like playoff games.
Bryson says Bryson says he thinks it's gonna be not Penn State here. So
All right.
Bryson says not Penn State. I feel a little bit more confident in Penn State potentially landing him. But again, I think it's one where Penn State does a lot of background work first.
Okay. Last but not least, real quick before we sign off, KJ Winston declared for NFL draft today. Adam Schefter reported it was a partially torn ACL. He tried to make it, give it a go. It just didn't work out for him. Played the 1.5 games, I think it was, or 1.25 games. So I'm intrigued to see how he recovers, how quickly he recovers, and where he ends up getting drafted. I think pro day, combine, and all that's going to play a major factor in that. Because teams want to see that he's healthy. If he's not healthy, he's going to drop quite a bit, I feel like.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be very interesting to see where KJ ultimately lands in the draft because he was going to be a first round pick this upcoming draft if he did not get hurt, but he got hurt and he didn't play. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him drop into the third round. You can argue if he came back in 2026, he could have 2025, he could have been 2026 first round pick, but that's not the case. He's going pro, and like somebody mentioned in my mentions on X, if he comes back, suffers another injury, then his draft stock is completely gone. So you can't blame him for going to the draft, but I do expect him to see his stock fall a little bit just because he wasn't able to play this season.
Yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on that. Obviously, a long off season. There's going to be others that declare. Of course, we're waiting on some of the big names like Drew Aller, Katron Allen, Nick Singleton specifically. Speaking of those two, we know they've shown interest in running back, so keep an eye out on that. LaShawn Williams, the lone guy who's reported interest publicly so far, has already committed somewhere else. I forget
but
where.
they're doing their due diligence at running back and several other positions.
Yeah, I would definitely keep an eye out. On this podcast, on our website, at the Lions Den Forum, got a whole transfer portal thread that's going kind of crazy every single day. But yeah, that's pretty much it. We good here, Dylan? You got anything else?
No, nothing else right now. I think, like Richie said, just stay tuned over at PennState.Rivals.com for more on the transfer portal. And, this week has flown by because of the portal, but, Richie, we need to start talking about Penn State SMU next week at Beaver Stadium.
Yes, we do.
As Penn State begins their college football playoff run next Saturday. So it should be interesting, should be fun. But until then, just go over to Happy Valley and start PennState.Rivals.com for more.
Real quick, whiteout game. Give it to me. Is it Oregon? Is it not?
Indiana.
Oh, way to end the pod on a bad note.
I did a Four Thoughts article today
I saw it.
over on the site, and that was my prediction. I think Oregon, good chance for the stripe out game. It's going to be a big noon kick, let's be honest. That leaves, they're not going to do non-conference games. That leaves Northwestern, Indiana, and Nebraska. Indiana and Nebraska both could work, but I think Indiana, coming off the college football playoff appearance, could be good again. Makes sense.
Yeah, they keep spending that money. We'll see. But I just wanted to hear you. I read the article. I just wanted to make sure you said it publicly so the people hate you too.
People can hate me. I'm. Until
I get it.
We get proven
sense.
that
the TV networks aren't out to get Penn State.
Yeah, the big noon kickoff is going to continue to ruin Penn State game atmospheres, as they like to say.
Yeah.
So
anyway, for me and Dylan, that's another episode of the Penn State 365 podcast. Signing off.